Hello everybody, welcome to our Ashlag Kaballah class. I thought it would be a good idea to take a step back and talk about what's going on in the world of Kabbalah, if you could say such a thing, and talk a little bit about some of the surrounding issues around Kabbalah study and some of the controversies around Kabbalah and around Ashlag Kaballah, because I think it's important because I'm trying to gauge how much interest there is in this for this class. And so I have some people who reach out to me and say that the class is amazing and that it's very important to them, but I would like to try to get a handle on how many people are actually finding this class, this Ashlag Kaballah class, informative and something that they feel is helping them and is something that they want to continue with. So what I'd like to ask everybody in the viewing audience out there is that obviously I can't force you, but I'm asking if you're willing. I'm asking people who watch these videos if for this video they could comment. They can leave a comment that about how they're feeling about the class. That the class is something that they are enjoying, and it's something that they understand, and that they want to continue. They feel attached to the classes. They're following them. They make sense, and they want to. So somebody can just, any comment you want to leave about who you are and and what the class means to you, and that would be helpful. And if you want to remain anonymous for some reason, I understand that, then you could just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you want to do. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so where to start about this greater conversation? I want to pull back a little bit, and instead of trying to give a Kabbalah lesson, try to talk about the whole landscape of Kabbalah and what's going on. So first thing I thought, I have some notes here I made for myself. And so first thing I wanted to say is that in today's environment, in the Torah Jewish world, the Torah world has changed dramatically in the last, let's say, 50 to 100 years. Dramatically changed. And so I remember even from when I was a kid, that there are very dramatic changes in the Jewish community, and one of the main changes is that if it was let's say 75 years ago, 50 years ago, a person who found themselves a religious Jew, an Orthodox Jew, an observant Jew, found themselves in a certain path, a certain derech, it's called in Hebrew, meaning they were a Chabad Chassid, or they were Litvish, or they were Sephardi, or they were Breslov, or they were they had modern Orthodox, right? Or they were conservative, or they were reform, or it was really something that a person was kind of stuck with. You could either, usually your choice was to stay in the way you were brought up, or to leave the fold. And so that is very different today. Today, your average observant Jew has a smorgasbord of opportunities to see all the different styles of Torah Judaism. So we live in Tzfat here, but in any city that has a large religious Jewish community, Yerushalayim, anywhere else in Israel, in New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, London, anywhere you go, you'll have an opportunity to try out all different versions of Torah Judaism, and we learn that there are many roads to the same place, and so there's different styles, and there's only one Torah, but there are different standards and different practices and different perspectives within the umbrella of Torah Judaism. There are different styles, and we learn. It says that we learn. It's certainly it's known that there are different types of Jews. The Jews, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, there were 12 different tribes. And each tribe has their own personality and their own characteristics. And the Alter Rebbe of Chabad, the author of the Tanya, the Bala Tanya, says, I think in chapter 13 and 14, and I think there's also a comment about the Ari Kodesh in chapter 25 in Tanya, that says that there are different souls, that we have different souls, and the different souls are from different places in the cosmic spiritual body is made up of all of 600,000 souls of the Jewish people, and that includes all of humanity. Ultimately, all of humanity, all of the whole entire world is included in this one Adam Kadmon, in this collective soul, and that each one of us is from a different place and a different place in this spiritual map, not a physical place, but in a spiritual makeup, in a non-physical place. We see that people have different personalities, and different people are inclined to different Torah studies. Some people are more inclined to study the law, halacha. Some people are more inclined to study Gemara. Some people are more inclined to learn the interior of the Torah. So this shouldn't surprise us that there's different views and different paths. And so today, one of the main differences is that if somebody is a Jew or a Noahide or a Christian or a Muslim or an atheist, they can go online and they can see every type of rabbi, a rabbi from Chabad Lubavitch, they can see a rabbi from Breslov, they can see Litvish rabbis, they can see Sephardi rabbis, they can see Kabbalists, everybody, presenting their style of Torah learning. And so a person has this tremendous difference that was not something that was even possible 75 years ago. And so out of that chidush we say in Torah, out of this novelty, this new thing that was happening, we have something that's also kind of new, is that you see that there's people who have like a hybrid approach. They share, hybrid's not really the right word, but they combine. They combine different, you have people who say that they're both Chabad and they're Breslov. And you have people who say, right, that they do different parts, they're attached. Oh, well, you ask somebody, what do you study? How do you study? What community are you part of? And somebody will say, oh, I'm a Breslov Chassid, I'm a Chabad Chassid. Somebody else will say, no, I put together both, Chabad and Breslov. I like them both, and I learned them both, and they both appeal to me, and I somehow put them together. I myself, I'm somebody who I consider myself a Chabad Chassid. I learned Chabad Chassid when I became more interested in Torah Judaism. I came back through Chabad, Lubavitch, and I love studying Chabad Chassidus, and I feel very attached to the Rebbe and to the Chabad community, but I also am attached to Ashlag Kaballah. So you see that there's two things that are, two different styles, and somehow they both appeal to me, and I somehow put them together, even though sometimes they can seem to some people to be not easily, put together, right? They can seem that they contradict each other sometimes, right? This rabbi is saying, do it like this, and the other rabbi is saying, do that. And so how do you put these things together? And yet in Torah Judaism, in the modern Torah world, you see that there's many people who describe themselves that way. There's also people who describe themselves as, it's very common I live here in Tzfat, and so people come here for Shabbat, they come here on the weekend, and they come to visit from all over Israel and from all over the world. And so I very often I'll ask somebody, I say, what are you into? What do you study? What kind of Jew are you? Who's your rabbi? These kind of questions. And many, many people will say, oh, I'm a regular Jew, I'm a simple Jew, I'm just regular, I'm everything, right? And so this is very common to hear today. And so that also is very interesting. I am somebody who I found Ashlag Kaballah, and I went all around the country, the United States, and I came to Israel looking at try to find an Ashlag rabbi that I can learn with. And I went to many, many different rabbis. And so I saw a full spectrum of Ashlag people. And so what I would like to share what I found. And so there seems to be three distinct communities of people who learn Ashlag Kaballah. So you have the ultra-Orthodox. So if you come to Israel, you can go to deep within the ultra-Orthodox community. I'm talking about the people who wear all black, right? And they have beards and strimals and right? And so this is, if you go to these communities, you will find people, Haredi Jews in Israel, they're called Haredi. You'll find Haredi communities of people learning Ashlag Kaballah, Ashlag Chassidim. And they have payot, and they strimals, and they don't have internet. And so you go to these ultra-Orthodox places, and you find there's a fair number of people who you can find who study Ashlag Kaballah, okay? And then there's something very interesting, which is an interesting phenomenon that I think causes a lot of the controversy and the confusion around Ashlag Kaballah, is you find that there are people who are non-observant, who are studying Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. And so when you meet people like that, a few things happen when you meet people who are not keeping halachic Judaism, but they are studying Ashlag Kaballah. You find many things. First of all, some people say that proves that Kabbalah study is dangerous, because you see that people are learning and they're not They think that because they're learning the inside of the Torah, because they're learning Kabbalah, they no longer need to keep halacha. There's a third group, and this is the group that I fall into, and it's the smallest group, and it's the most narrow group within the spectrum that of Kabbalah study, of Ashlag Kabbalah study, and those are people who are Balei Tshuva or modern Orthodox or modern people, so people who have a secular worldview or were raised in a secular way or were somehow immersed in secular culture, right? So if I told you the Beatles, you would know who I'm talking about. If I told you the Mets, you'd know who I was talking about. If I told you the Museum of Natural Art, you would know, of modern art, you would know what I'm talking about. And if I told you Van Gogh, you'd know who I was talking about. And if I told you Shakespeare, you'd know who I was talking about, right? So these are people who have both are connected somehow to the religious community, but they also have they were raised in a culture. They weren't raised in a completely Haredi community where they don't know anything. They never read magazines, never went to the movies, never listened to secular music, right? So this group is a very interesting group because it's by far the smallest of these three groups of the ultra-Orthodox people. If you look for ultra-Orthodox people, Haredi people studying Ashlag Kabbalah, you'll find them. It won't be that hard if you go to Jerusalem, or you go to Borough Park, or you go to Monsey, or you go to, right, Bnei Brak, you go to these places, you will find you just ask somebody where are the Ashlag Kaballah Chassidim, and they'll tell you. And so here we are in this class, and this is I find myself in a very, sometimes lonely predicament, a very, very unusual spot where you have people who are have one foot in both of these worlds, so to speak, and they are interested in studying Kabbalah, okay? And so this is a small group of people. And so here, what I've noticed, this is my own opinion, this is a reflection that I have over 15 years of studying Ashlag Kaballah and investigating it. I actually made a movie about Kabbalah, so I went around and spoke to people in depth about Kabbalah and asked people their opinions, different rabbis, different groups, right? And so I'm speaking from a certain amount of, not authority, but from experience of speaking to many, many people who study and teach Ashlag Kaballah. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that people are very interested in Kabbalah in a general way. So if you're here in Tzfat and people are always say the word Kabbalah. I had some kids come up there and they said to me, "Oh, I heard you're into Kabbalah and we wanted to learn Kabbalah with you." And they were just some kids who came to for a year of study from the United States, and they were, so everybody's thinking, they have Kabbalah on the brain. Everybody's interested in, right? They think they're interested or they're somehow interested in Kabbalah. But what I found is that very few people in this middle group are truly interested in studying Ashlag Kaballah. And before we can go forward with this discussion, we have to just stop here and try to get a handle on what it is what Kabbalah is, according to Rav Ashlag, the Baal Sulam, the great master Kabbalist who wrote the Perush on the Zohar. And he has, that's what we're studying here, and there's many introductory articles where the Baal Sulam explains, he gives it a foundational, many pages of foundational explanation of what Kabbalah is and what it is not. And many of the things he says contradict what many people think Kabbalah is, okay? There's an organization, I'm not going to name any name of organizations, but there's an organization that's very famous, and they say they're Ashlag people, but they have things like, they sell holy water, and they have red strings, and other type of these kind of new age practices, and this is diametrically opposed to what Ashlag Kaballah is, and Ashlag Kaballah is nothing more and nothing less than the Kabbalah of the Ari HaKodesh, just explained by the Rav Ashlag. And Rav Ashlag says himself in his Hakdamot, he says in his introductory articles, that he's doing nothing new. All he's doing is explaining what the Ari said and putting it into order and explaining it in a way that a modern person can understand. Because each generation, the information is less encrypted as people do more and more. Each generation does more work to explain things. So if you read a book from a rabbi that's alive today, it'll sound much more understandable than if you read something from 1,000 years ago, right? The language. What?
Can you, is that comparable to Rashi? Rashi explaining the Torah? In a certain way, And Ashlag,
I don't think that that's a good. I don't think that that's a. Somebody's asking here is what the Baal Sulam did to the Zohar, is that what, and to the work of the Ari in Tas, named Talmud Esesphiros, which is a very many volumes of the Baal Sulam going through the work of the Ari. I don't think that it's that the Rashi on Torah and Gemara is exactly a good comparison, because Rashi tries to give you a pshat, a very simple explanation of what's going on, and that's in a way that's what the Baal Sulam is trying to do. But really, what the Baal Sulam did, what he's really what his major this massive change was that it was the Zohar is encoded, it's doubly encoded. It's not, when you read it, it doesn't really mean what you think it means from the story. It's stories. A rabbi was walking with his friend, and then he comes across a road, and then he meets there's a horse there, or there's a cat. It's not. These are all encrypted to refer to spiritual degrees of consciousness, and this is a very good question. And what the Baal Sulam did is he took out the code and told you exactly what's going on. He says, in this Zohar, this is what it's talking about. It's talking about this degree and that degree, and then he additionally explains to you what that degree is, and then it becomes even more complicated, because we're not trying to learn about something. So if you were reading a book about mountain climbing, and you read, it says this is like this third pitch of the mountain is called Widow's Pass. You're not trying to just memorize the book. You need to go to the mountain and be on that road. And so if you're reading the book, you're not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing in Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, you're supposed to be finding the spiritual degree within yourself, and then locating the degree of consciousness above you, and then positioning yourself so that I don't want to confuse people, so that God draws you up to the next level from where you are. So you have to identify where you are. So when you read the book, you're supposed to be finding within yourself that there's spiritual light, energy, information, communication in the book, and you're trying to find where that is inside of yourself. So that's I'm glad we asked that question, but it's very complicated. But I see the students here understand what I'm saying, but if you don't understand, it's also okay, but try to just hear what's being said. But back to the conversation that we're having, which is that, let me try to give you, it's actually the point I was just going to go to, which is what Rav Ashlag says Kabbalah is. And so we can at least understand, because you come to Sfat or you go somewhere else and people are saying everything about what Kabbalah is, but they don't necessarily study Kabbalah, or they study some kind of precursor to Kabbalah, or they're basically giving you some kind of Kabbalistically inspired story, or they're referencing something from Kabbalah, and then they're trying to give you I don't know, like a taste of what it might. I don't know exactly what a lot of people. I go to a lot of Kabbalah classes, and I am kind of confounded or dumbfounded by what the person is saying. They either just speak about things that they don't seem to be telling you. They reference some name of some spiritual level, but they don't really seem to be tying it to anything that's happening internally, and so it just seems very confusing. So what Rav Ashlag says Kabbalah is nothing more and nothing less than a map and instructions for transcending your ego, for getting outside of your ego, and that if you look even in the Torah, even in the Bible, the parshios, the weekly Bible passages that we're doing right now are all about the Israelites in Egypt. And so I would just invite somebody, if they want to try to understand what we're talking about in Kabbalah, is to just look at the Bible passage that we're reading now, and when you see the word paro, take out the word paro and put the word ego in. And when you see the word Moshe in the parsha, take out the word Moshe and put into that, say, the part of me that wants to rise above my own selfish, limited self. The part of me that has a desire to transcend and to unify with all existence. And then you can, so once you start to, if you read the Torah like that, the Bible passages like that, you'll see, even if you just do that simple exercise, take out paro and put in the word ego, and take out the word Moshe and put in the desire to transcend, the point of connection to your transcendent part of you, that part of you that desires, right? So there's this tiny little part of every person that feels like, gee, there should be something bigger than this. There should be something better than this. There should be a way to for everybody to come together in love and balance and unity, and yet I don't know what that thing is, but I feel that there is something like that, right? I think that now it's important for people who are in our community to hear this and to talk about this. And so there are a lot of people who are Chabad Chassidim who talk about Kabbalah, but they're really talking about Chassidut, and they don't learn Ashlag Kaballah, although there are, and I know there are Chabad Chassidim who study Ashlag Kaballah, and a lot of them are quiet about it, but there are people who do, and there's some big rabbis who do, and then there's other rabbis who study both Chabad Chassidus and Breslov Chassidus and Ashlag Kaballah, and they somehow put them together. There's a Gadol, his name is Rabbi Morgenstern, and he puts out Sea of Wisdom, and he is somebody who's from Israel, I think he's from Yerushalayim, and he's a very big tzaddik, a very righteous person, and a very big Talmid Chacham, and he's a very elevated person, and he's bringing in very, very kind of a new way of understanding how all these different streams of Judaism ultimately fit together in a spiritual way that we don't understand. In other words, that in this cosmic spiritual neural net, this spiritual unified soul, that as we elevate collectively, as all of humanity elevates, we're going to start to see that all of these different styles and paths of Torah Judaism actually merge together and complement each other and work together in synthesize, right? So that's something that if we're just trying to understand Chabad Chassidus, and we're just starting to understand Breslov Chassidus, and we're just beginning to learn Ashlag Kaballah, it's very hard to know what we're talking about when we say they're going to all come together, because we don't even know what each one of them is, okay? But I want to talk a little bit, since I am a Chabad person, I want to talk about what I've learned and what I've heard and what I know about Ashlag Kaballah and what the Rebbe says about it. And so one point I wanted to make about the Rebbe, about something that we just said, is that I was saying how it's interesting that there are more people, a bigger group of people who are seriously learning Kabbalah who are not keeping halacha, and then there are people who in the middle, like us, who are studying Ashlag Kaballah. There's very many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of people who are not keeping halacha who are studying Ashlag Kaballah, and then there are many, many people who are Haredi who are studying Ashlag Kaballah, and there's very few in the middle. And so there's an insight, I think, from Chabad Chassidus, something the Rebbe said, that I think is, since I study Ashlag Kaballah, I think it's something that maybe a lot of people wouldn't feel that the Rebbe was talking about Ashlag Kaballah, but I think, and I'm saying it, this is my own opinion, but I think that what the Rebbe could have meant when the Rebbe said, was talking about something called kares, when somebody gets cut off, chas v'shalom, God forbid, if a person gets cut off from Judaism. So you see people who are raised religious or connected to Torah Judaism, and then they somehow are disconnected from it. Either there's a war, right, or they move somewhere and there's no yeshiva, or they get angry at a teacher and they leave Judaism, or all different reasons why somebody would go from becoming a religious person, an observant person, a Torah person, I don't like the word religious, but a Torah observant person, and become non-religious, they call it, right? So the Rebbe makes the point that when a person is cut off, it's one of the punishments you see in the Torah, that there's different punishments, and one of the punishments for doing a sin, a very grave sin, is that you could get cut off from the klal, from the collective, from the community of Torah observant people. You can get cut off, kares, right? And so the Rebbe makes the point. The Rebbe says that a person, when they get cut off, they only get cut off by, there's two ropes that connect the person to Torah Judaism. One is the outside rope, and one is the inside rope. So we know that in Torah Judaism, there's two parts, right? We talk about the external aspect of Torah, the practicing of the mitzvot, and then we talk about Pnimius Torah. Pnimius Torah refers to Kabbalah and Chassidut, the intellectual, emotional, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual work that we do internally. That's the work of Kabbalah and the work of Chassidut. That is the internal aspect of Torah. And so the Rebbe says that a person does not get cut off from the inside of the Torah, meaning that rope they remain attached to. And so perhaps that is what the Rebbe meant when the Rebbe said that a person does not get cut off. You see that people who are less religious, less observant, religious is a very bad word, less, because not really accurate, less observant people are more interested often in the internal aspect of Torah, right? They want to learn, hey, you meet somebody who's not religious, they want to learn Kabbalah. I want to learn Kabbalah. They come off the bus here in Tzfat and everybody's like, they know almost very little about Torah Judaism, but they say they want to learn Kabbalah. And so you see that people are, that perhaps that's what the Rebbe meant when the Rebbe said that a person is never cut off from the inner aspect of Torah. So the Rebbe also makes the point that Chassidut is higher than Kabbalah. And so I find this statement to be a lonely statement. This is one of the, I started studying when I became more observant. I started studying Chabad Chassidus, and I was also interested in Kabbalah, and so I was studying them both, looking for people to learn from both. And when I came across this statement by the Rebbe, I was mesmerized. I was very interested. The Rebbe said that Chassidut is higher than Kabbalah. So the reason why I said this is a very lonely statement for me is because there's very few people who are studying Kabbalah and Chassidut who could tell you why one is higher than the other. Mm-hmm. So if you're only studying Chabad Chassidus, you can ask somebody who studied Chabad Chassidus, say, why is Chabad Chassidus higher than Kabbalah? And very often they have answers, but it's not necessarily the answer that you would hear from people who study Kabbalah, or not necessarily an insight that you would have from studying Kabbalah. But since I study both, I have some insights about how Chabad Chassidus is higher than Kabbalah. And you'd think that if I thought that Chabad Chassidus is higher than Ashlag Kaballah, I would study only Chabad Chassidus. So, but that's not the case. I still study both. And so it's why that is, I can't really say. I'm attached to them both. I feel very connected to them both. And so in the spiritual worlds, we say that there's 4 worlds, right? There's 4 worlds. We won't name them or go into them, but there's 4 worlds. We've said in Ashlag Kaballah, we refer to them as taking selfishly, and then giving people things because you really want something, ulterior motive, and then giving people things because you really want to give them stuff, because it makes, right, you feel connected to giving, you desire to give. And then the next highest level is the level of you receive things because you want to make other people happy. Right, so God gives you a new car, and you're happy to take the car because it connects you to God, and it makes it makes Hashem happy. So you're happy to take the gift because you want Hashem to be happy. That's the highest level. Mm-hmm. But then comes the Keter, the hidden level, the 5th level. The Lubavitch Rebbe always talks about 5 levels. He tells you the hidden level. That's the Keter. That's the higher level. And so the higher level is the level of Chassidut. This is the Chabad answer to how Chassidut is high, how Chassidut is higher than Kabbalah, is that the Keter is the level that ties all the levels together. Mm. So I can be in a relationship with you, and sometimes I want something from you because I want it, and then I might have a transactional relationship with you. I say, if I pick you up in the morning, can you help me with unload these things from my house, right? I have that relationship with you. Or I could just see you and I say, like, I really love you, and I bought you a sweater because it makes me happy to buy you a sweater. I was in the mall and I saw a green sweater, you have green eyes, and I thought, I got to get you this sweater, right? So I'm just giving you because it makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And then there's the higher level where I know that you want to be a giver, so you invite me to your house and you want to feed me, and so I know it makes you happy to feed me, and so I'm accepting the food with the desire, with the kavanah, with the intention to make you happy. Right, those are the 4 levels. But you see that that to be a fully functioning human being and to be fully engaged in the world, you sometimes are in all of these worlds, right? Yeah. So we have all of these together, and so the level of Chabad Chassidus is the level that incorporates all of these things together and packages the full spectrum of human desire all together. Okay, so that's the 5th level, and so that's the answer to Chabad Chassidus. But as somebody who studies Ashlag Kaballah, I can tell you another reason, a reason that I infer from learning them both. that is not such a common answer. And so what I've noticed is, and I hope this means very little to a lot of people, and maybe some people will appreciate what I'm saying, and maybe they won't, but perhaps we see that studying Kabbalah, Ashlag Kaballah, is harder for people who are observant than it is for people who are not observant. That's something about learning Kabbalah is, you see, throughout the ages, Kabbalah was kept secret, and it was hidden, and it was kept reserved for only people who were very advanced in Torah learning and Torah observance, right? Only the greatest people of each community. You go back 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, only the very top tier of Torah scholars and righteous people would be studying Kabbalah, and everybody else was expected to just study the revealed Torah. So there is a quality in Kabbalah study that takes you out of the world, right? It takes you out of the physical world, and it draws you into the spiritual world. And so the Rav Ashlag says this many ways. He says this, and he says literally that Kabbalah study takes you out of the world. It says that it destroys your physical desire, and it gives birth to your spiritual desire. And so the problem with that comes the Baal Shem Tov and all the Chassidim, and says that they say that the reason that the Kabbalists give for why God created the world is that God wanted to make us happy, right? And the Chassidim come, the Baal Shem Tov comes, and all the Chassidim after, and say, no, we need an even deeper answer. That's why the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov is a new revelation, a further revelation, another step forward in this whole evolution of Torah consciousness. Says that our new reason for why God created the world is for us to make a Dira Batachtonim, a dwelling place for God in the lower world. And so the Rebbe was careful to tell everybody that the Iker mitzvah is the physical mitzvah. The Iker mitzvah is doing the actual physical act. And so for the Kabbalists, this sounds wrong, because really it sounds like what we're trying to do is we're trying to break away from physicality and enter into spirituality, right? And so that is what, if you would learn Kabbalah, that is what they would tell you, is that the physical world is something that needs to be jettisoned, something that is just something like a transitory level for us to get to this higher consciousness level, the spiritual level. And you see that, and this is also just a reflection of my own, I didn't read it anywhere, but I think I feel that it's accurate. I see that in the secular world, people are becoming less and less physical. So if you go to, like, let's say Tel Aviv, or you go to Tokyo, yes, there's an abundance of people are overindulging in physicality and food, and right, all these things people are overindulging. But what happens after you overindulge for too long is that you lose your desire for it completely, right? So if you work in a bakery and you eat cake every single day and you overindulge for years, at a certain point you don't even like it anymore, and you stop eating the cake because you destroyed that, the joy of the physical experience, right? And so Torah Judaism, I think the Rebbe is trying to drive home this point very much with his teachings, that you see that that as we move into this more spiritual realm, as we move towards Mashiach consciousness, as the evolution of consciousness, you see the world is evolving very quickly right now, is changing very rapidly, and we're not sure what's going to happen, and things are, we're entering into very different times. And so you see that in authentic Torah Judaism, the focus is going to be on staying. The hardship, the trick is going to be to remain in physicality. More and more people are going to become spiritual and become focused on spirituality, and people are going to lose interest in physicality. And so, counterintuitively, we're entering into a place where the physical Torah is going to be the more unique, the more special one, the more unique. Right, so you're going to meet, if I went to Tel Aviv, you meet most cool people are vegans, and you come to like Sfat, and most Orthodox Jews, most religious Jews are like busy like drinking whiskey and eating meat all day and having these big parties, right? And so it's very interesting that that you see that in Chassidut the emphasis is on the Iker mitzvah is the physical mitzvah, and so you see that I think that an advantage of Chabad Chassidus over Ashlag Kaballah is that the focus is on making this world a better place, as opposed to taking yourself out of this lower realm of consciousness into a higher realm of consciousness. Now that said, obviously I wouldn't be studying both if I didn't think that there was a value to studying both, and you see that there are many people who don't gravitate towards Chabad Hasidus, which I don't really understand. I'm always amazed when I see people who are not into Chabad Hasidus, but there are people who are not, and then you see people who want to learn Kabbalah. They're talking about Kabbalah all the time, and so I just think that this is I just felt that this was an important conversation to have, to try to figure out from the audience, and from the students here, and from people. I please hope that people would write in the messages and tell me what they're thinking about this. Is what is the attraction to Ashlag Kaballah and what people are hoping to get out of this class. A few more notes here. I jumped all over the place, and so I hope I made some kind of sense. So in Kabbalah, they talk about a person having an awakening, and that a person, it doesn't seem, this is a conversation that you Ashlag people have, it doesn't seem like the whole world is going to study Ashlag Kaballah. It seems that we put the wisdom out there, and certain people are attracted to this, and certain people are attracted to that. And so, why are people attracted to Ashlag Kaballah is a question in itself. And so, I'll go to what Rav Ashlag says. He says that a person has an awakening, a spiritual awakening, a point in the heart, and I'm reluctant to make this reference, but I will anyway, about the movie The Matrix. So many people point out that The Matrix has a lot of is inspired by Kabbalistic thought, and in many ways it is, and there's some things that are not kosher Kabbalah, if you can even say that. They're from different religions and different mysticisms and different things, and so I'm not telling people that they should watch The Matrix and think that they understand Ashlag Kaballah, but there is a point where a person feels that they're in a program, that they're in some kind of they're in some kind of video game, and that there's a programmer, and that the programmer is trying to get you to wake up. And so the Ashlag and the Rav Ashlag talks about a point in the heart. And so a person who is constantly saying, I want to learn Kabbalah, or I came to Sfat because I want to hear more about Kabbalah, even if they're just going to a Kabbalah artist, but the fact that they have this word in their head and they have this feeling means that they're beginning to awaken to a question. And the question that Rav Ashlag says, what is that question? They say, what is this world? Which is the question that every philosopher and every musician and every artist is trying to always answer, which is, what is life? And why are we here? And so people come to every conclusion. There is no purpose. We don't know what the purpose is, right? So go on YouTube and listen to all the philosophers from all the, you want to pick, who do you want to pick? Hegel, and you want to pick anybody. Go listen to what they're saying, and they're all saying things that are exactly the opposite of what is being said in Torah Judaism. They're saying there's no way to know that there's a God. And if there's a God, we don't know if he's good, and we don't know if there's one God or there's many gods, and we don't know. And if there is a God, we can't really connect to him, and all these different things. And so Ashlag Kaballah is saying no, and the Ari HaKodesh, and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Torah, all the sages in the Gemara, and the Torah itself, and the entire story and narrative and methodology of Torah and mitzvos is saying the exact opposite of that, saying that no, God created the world, and he hid himself from us for specific reasons, so that we could develop along a certain path, and we can achieve certain goals on our own, feeling that we're doing it ourselves, participate in the creation process, and come back to the initial state, but with new clothing, it's called in Kabbalah, and right. So the Chassidim wear 7 different garments, and these are emblematic of these 7 different levels in Zera Anpin, and this is all right inspired by Kabbalah. and meant to mirror Kabbalah, and all the mitzvos mirror these stages. We don't understand how it goes together, but people do. This farm, the Ariya Kodesh talks about it, and he explains this mitzvah is talking about this, and this mitzvah relates to this, and this, right? It's all part of a spiritual body, right? And so we are so in what's happening now in the world is that people are waking up, and people are saying, secular people, people who are religious, people from all walks of life, people who are Jewish, people who are not Jewish, people who are religious, people who are not religious, people who are observant, people who are not observant. People are waking up and saying, we're in a matrix, we're in some kind of video game, there's some kind of something going on here, and there's a program, and we can understand the program, and we can work the program, and we can achieve, there's some kind of goal that's been set out before us, and we can understand that. And that's exactly what the Kabbalists have been writing about. That's what they wrote it in an encrypted way. And in each generation, they had to try to explain it to the people who were coming online from their generation, their community of souls that was awakening. Those people in each generation were talking to each other and trying to write to each other about what is the secret of this program, and in each generation they become more and more clear. Just like if you see, look at from the 70s when they started with the computer, and they said each generation the computer becomes more sophisticated, more clear, more workable, right? More powerful, more inclusive, more functionality. That's exactly what we're seeing in the world today. And so as we move forward, you'll see that people are interested in Kabbalah, and so they're awakening to the fact that there is literally a program that is being played out, and something that we can actually, and that there are people who wrote about it, about what the program is, what the objectives of the program are, and how we can actually be proactive about getting to the goals of creation. Okay, so Torah and mitzvos is that methodology, but the exterior of the Torah is how to behave in this world, in Olam Hazeh it's called, right? How to behave while you are outside of spiritual attainment. So we're away from, so to speak, Hashem is hidden from us, and we're told that this is the way we should behave here. But at the same time, the Torah and mitzvos correlates to an internal map of how to climb the ladder of consciousness and get back to the veikut with Hashem, back to a connection to God, and how to have a revealed relationship with the creator of the world. Okay, please, I ask everybody who's watching and anybody who wants to comment and connect with us and tell us what they're feeling and what they're thinking online to please reach out and communicate with us. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. See you next week.